If you like to talk about combat sports and you want to join the discussion, click the subscribe button below and the bell notification icon next to it and join Knucklehead Nation.
What's going on, Knuckleheads? Thank you so much for joining me for the Keep It Clean podcast. Today we're going to be discussing Badou Jack being absolutely robbed again, this time versus Jean Pascal, while the light heavyweight title of the world was on the line. We're going to have special guest Amer Abdallah, who's Jack's manager in boxing. You may also know him as a successful world champion kickboxer. Amer Abdallah also trains fighters at the Mayweather gym, I guess, among other places, and he's also, it looks like he's involved in some great causes with Badou Jack. I've seen them on social media, headed overseas, going to refugee camps, doing things for the kids out there. So, guys I really appreciated, but something at the same time that I wanted to tackle on the channel, because unless you were, living under a rock or closing your eyes while that fight between Badou Jack and Jean Pascal was going down last week on the Tank Davis undercard, then, you think that Jack should have earned that decision. Now, if you agree with the judges, of course, we accept all opinions on this channel. We don't hate, we appreciate. However, it is part of the theme of this channel, as the Keep It Clean podcast title entails. It is consistent with the channel to call out boxing corruption wherever we see it, and I think that decision was just so piss poor and there was so much on the line. And what kind of pisses me off about the decision more than anything is the fact that Badou Jack has had a recent string of very questionable, very, shady and sketchy, for lack of a better term, decisions against him going back a couple of years. And, it's just been very unfortunate. He's a very good fighter. These fighters, they bust their behinds, and we all know that, and we appreciate that as hardcore fans on this channel. We know how hard these guys bust their behinds to make it in the sport, the sacrifice, physically, mentally, what they go through to make it in this sport, and for them to have that ripped away from them by either corrupt or incompetent judges is unacceptable. So, that's sort of my introduction to this video. At this time, I'm going to reach out and try to get Amer Abdallah on the call. Hopefully, we can get him on here, Knuckleheads. Just hold for a second here while I dial him up. Not going to give away his number because that is not a nice thing to do. So hopefully he picks up the phone here, Knuckleheads. Give me a second.
Hello.
Hello, Mr. Amer Abdallah. How are you, sir?
Hey, I'm well, brother. How are you?
I'm doing well. Thank you so much for joining the podcast today. I really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me on.
Thank you so much, Amer. So, this channel, just so you get a little bit of background on it, Amer, and I did send you a little email with some background, but I'm sorry, I had a little feedback there. It's a channel where we like to call out the corruption in boxing and combat sports in general. We are a kickboxing promotion out here in California. We love all combat sports. But, boxing in general tends to have a lot of problems. And, in a nutshell, and we'll get into the fight between Pascal and Jack.
Well, I thank God I had a great career in my life. I had a pretty distinguished amateur career, 3-time national champion. I won a lot of international fights, international titles. I actually got a scholarship to fight overseas. And when I turned pro in October 20th of 2000, I actually fought on a good close friend of mine's promotion. It was my professional debut. I actually, if you remember, Angel Manfredi was at the height of his career during that time. And he flew in to work my corner. And at the end of the night, and I packed the place. I fought the Canadian champion. I was supposed to have a soft touch for my pro debut, but I ended up fighting Canadian champion. Actually, if you remember him, he was a big UFC guy, Sean Tompkins, the coach.
Okay.
And I ended up fighting Sean Tompkins, and I beat Sean. And at the end of the night, I didn't know really much about the promotion side, so I got paid $250.
Wow.
What the heck? $250. So I knew something. That was the day that the light bulb went off in my mind, and I started my own promotion company. So by the way, back then I was the first, if not one of the first, to ever promote themselves. And I caught so much heat about how much of a conflict of interest it was. And now fast forward to today, Floyd does it. All the big fighters do it, promoting themselves. So I got into the business part of it actually rather early. That wasn't something that happened after my fighting career. I was always promoting, managing while I was fighting, which is, I always say, I take pride in saying I was probably the highest paid kickboxer ever because I just ran the business a little bit different. And what my saying that I always go by is, this is a business disguised as a sport, and it is. At the end of the day, these guys, we out there, and you take real punishment, real shots, and you put your life at real risk. So if you're a prize fighter, you have to make sure that it's beneficial for you and your family, the longevity of your career, and of course your health. So that's how it really started, and that's just kind of an overview of where I am in the fight game. But if you call it success, the reason that I find success is I've touched every part of this game, from a fighter to a gym owner, to a head coach, to an assistant coach, to a promoter, manager, advisor. I've touched every part of this game, so I can kind of wear a couple of different hats.
And I have seen you before. I know of you, and I've researched you, and that is something that I saw in researching you, that you've kind of touched every aspect of the game. If we're to pick out one aspect of the game that you love the most, whether it's being a fighter, a coach, a manager, a promoter, what would you say is your favorite, if you have one?
That's a great question. It really depends on what time in my life. So when I was in my early mid-20s, of course, I used to fantasize about walking to the ring and what music I would play, and what color my trunks were going to be and my outfit was going to be. That was the fun part of it, engaging in combat, and just, being able to knock someone out with a perfectly placed kick or a perfectly placed punch. And that was a big thing. And as I got older, my last fight, I was 38 years old, maybe even 38, 39 years old. And I fought a young guy out of, I think he was out of Wales. Somewhere over there in the UK or in Europe, and he was 23 years old. I could have been his father, but I won the fight, and I just remember, I was checked out all during training camp. Man, that whole camp, and I was defending my world title. That whole camp, I sparred 4 rounds.
Oh my goodness!
And that's it. Yeah, it wasn't in my heart anymore. I was a lot more focused in the promoting and the other parts of it. So it really depends on what stage of my career we're talking about. At this point, of course, I watch fights, and it's not like I get the itch. I get that question a lot, man. Do you ever get the itch? Hell no, I don't get the itch. Right now, I get the itch when I go to a buffet or when I see, a nice steak. That's when I get the itch. I don't get the itch when I see that. I would rather just watch these guys fight, and I encourage them. And, now my passion comes from, finding top talent and getting big fights and seeing these guys progress. So that's the love of the sport at this stage of my life.
I think it's hilarious that you bring up the buffet. One comment that I heard from you in one of the videos was that you said, I used to go to the gym and look forward to sparring. Now I look forward to a cup of coffee with the guys. And, I said, oh, my God, Amer Abdallah is turning into everybody's Arab uncle. He just wants to come over and have coffee.
Come over, have coffee, show you pictures of my kids, talk about, how my daughter did today. And that's it.
Oh, that's it, brother.
It's crazy how the stages of your career happen. They happen so fast, brother. They happen so fast. Just literally overnight, I just got bored fighting.
Yeah.
I just did.
Yeah. I get it.
And
I get it. I get. I'm in my late 30s now, and I don't even want to train anymore either. I never fought, but I feel you totally. I see you're doing some really fantastic stuff. Again, before we get into the fight here, I've seen you've done some great stuff as a manager with Jack. I'm assuming you were responsible for not only heading to a refugee camp with him to help out the kids out there, but also it looks like you got him this incredible deal on Ripper Nutrition in China or something like that. Can you expand on that if you don't mind?
Sure. With Badou is, first of all, before he's anything, he is a devout Muslim, a philanthropist at heart. What I didn't know, because he is a quiet giant, is he was doing all of these things without anybody really knowing. He was going to his native country, his father's country of Gambia, and donating to underprivileged children, to orphans. And I said to him, I said, Badou, you have such a platform. Why wouldn't you use that, not to advertise what you're doing, but to get more help? He said, well, it was really not my thing. Anyway, I told him, you know what, it is now. So we started the Badou Jack Foundation, and the mission there is to give children across the globe a fighting chance in life. And we're starting with, the kids that need the most help. They're not only refugees that have fled their country from, war-torn situations and catastrophes, but they're orphans inside of the refugee camp. So it's really a select group of kids that we're working with. And Badou saw this image, of a 3-year-old Syrian boy washed up on shore, which went viral, worldwide. And he's got 2 beautiful children, so it really affected him. And he said, let's start there. So we started with the Syrians, and while we were in Zaatari camp, and we saw the Palestinian refugees also in Jordan. We were guests of His Highness Prince Ali, and that's where we started. He's doing right now. He's helping orphans in Gambia, in Jordan, and the Syrian camp as well.
That's very cool. And you have, Amer, you have roots in Jordan, or are you from another part of the Arab world?
Yeah, my parents now live in Jordan. We're Palestinian, originally Palestinian, and a lot of Palestinians, fled Palestine after the occupation in 48. 67.
Of course. So that's very cool stuff. How about the Ripper Nutrition thing? I mean, I thought that was extremely impressive. If you can,
what we had to do now was pump the brakes because we have to rebrand. It was picked up by a lot, it turned into a lot more of a pharmaceutical grade product. We've teamed up with some great researchers and developers and some scientists, introduced lunasin, which is a natural plant-based peptide, and we were the first sports company to do that. The natural antioxidant, anti-inflammatory. So it got picked up, and the Chinese market picked it up more for an older market. He said, man, this thing, we were originally starting it out as a sports nutrition line, where now it can get into a pharmaceutical line. So we're in the process now of rebranding that. We did a great deal out with a group in China, and now we're expanding into all the rest of Asia and the Middle East, and just going global with it.
That's very cool, man. And, congratulations to you and Badou Jack, obviously, on that accomplishment. I mean, that's definitely not an easy thing to do. You say it's a good problem to have. I would agree with that. So, let's get into the fight here. For me, this fight was especially disturbing because Badou Jack, in the past few years, I think if we go back to 2016 to his fight with Lucien Boutet, that's when these shady decisions against Badou Jack began. And, even though in that Boutet fight, it ended up being a disqualification against Boutet because I guess he got caught with some PEDs. I mean, there's no denying it now that, he's been seemingly on the wrong end of 4 decisions in like his last 6 fights. So I guess I want to start with, what was your opinion on the Pascal fight?
Look, for me, and you hit it right on the head, for me, Badou is, let me go back before I even talk about our subjective point. From an objective standpoint, there is now one fighter in boxing today that has fought 8 world champions back to back to back. Badou Jack fights all hard fights. They don't give him soft touches. And you know what? He doesn't want soft touches. So we always fight the best guys that are out there, the world champions, whether we're stepping up in a weight class or stepping down to a weight class. super middleweight. He won the WBC title against Anthony Durrell. He clearly outbeat Anthony, and we have a great relationship with Anthony. But boxing is boxing. He beat him probably 10 rounds to 2. If you're being lenient, 9 rounds to 3, and it was a majority decision, meaning one judge had it even. When he fought Butte, same exact thing. He beat the crap out of him, and of course they ended up reversing the decision to a disqualification because he ended up losing juicing. When he fought Adonis Stevenson, he won the fight. Ended up giving it a draw. When he fought James DeGale, he beat DeGale. Draw. You know, he gets these raw deals. In the ring against Jean Pascal, and Badou has a wonderful relationship with Jean Pascal. They have, they're friends outside of the ring. To me, I mean, look, Badou started slow, and he has that habit of starting slow. And he gave up maybe the first 3 rounds, and then he started picking up the pace. The middle rounds were even, and from round 6 on, Badou dominated and almost stopped him in the 12th round. There was zero chance that fight should have gone any other way than Badou Jack by unanimous decision. And when we were in the ring, I said to him, Badou, there's no way they're going to screw you out of this decision. And he goes, you think so? And I said, Badou, it's impossible. And if you look at the camera and you just turn the sound off and you look in Pascal's corner and you look in Badou's corner, you'll see us, everybody's hugging, high-fiving. Leonard Ellerby came over, I gave him a kiss on his head, and we were like, we got it, we did it. I'm finally, Floyd's so happy in the ring, we're all celebrating. And in Pascal's corner is like a morgue. Everybody's so sad that they're attending the funeral. Yeah. It's obvious who won the fight. And when the decision came out, I was shocked. I was appalled.
I agree, man. I was just absolutely disgusted with that decision. I mean, I felt just like you did. I felt like I saw the same thing you saw, where the first 3 rounds, 3-4 rounds were pretty close. Pascal dropped him in the 4th, but I thought Jack was doing good work in the 4th. And then from then on, I didn't see. I don't know. I didn't see anything from Pascal from then on. And then I felt like Jack was coming on and about to finish the fight at the end. He became so dominant. Oh, and I heard that decision and I was just like, my goodness, they've done it again. They've done it again. Not just to Pascal, but I was thinking at the time, they've done it again with this. It's either incompetent or corrupt judging. So, I mean, being in the position that you're in, Amer, what do you think it boils down to in this situation? Was it incompetence or was it corruption? What would you say, if you can, give me your straight opinion on this one?
Well, first and foremost, let me take out any kind of emotional stance that I take. As a Muslim, to accuse somebody of corruption, you have to have absolute proof. And I would never, as upset as I am at those judges, or what I call them the 2 blind mice, Ray Charles and Stevie Wonder, who were judging that fight, as upset as I was at that, I can't say they were corrupt.
I respect that.
I can say a lot of things. I can say that they were probably on their phones watching something else. They were not watching Badou Jack and Jean Pascal.
Yeah.
They were not. Julie Letterman, who ironically enough, gave the Jack DeGale fight a draw, gave us the fight, which I think the scores were probably in line, 14-12. I probably had it a little bit more of a gap, 15-11. But regardless, Badou winning, I just don't know how it can go the other way. I think, listen, this is not the first time that boxing has these controversial decisions. So I'm often asked, well, what do you think the solution is? Look, for me, there's only one solution, and that's the only viable and realistic solution that there is you put 5 judges, and you take the median 3, and that's what you go by.
Yeah.
I don't know what else you can do, because here's the thing. If you or I have a bad night, you know what happens? You have a crappy podcast.
Yeah.
You know what happens if this judge has a bad night? Badou's family doesn't eat.
Right.
You see the difference?
Right.
We're not talking about, oh man, I put mushrooms on the pizza when I should have put pepperoni. No. You're talking about you just cost his family a 7-figure payday. You just cost his daughter her education. You cost him the living standards because you had a bad night. I mean, you had a judge that gave Floyd and Canelo an even fight when it was a dominant performance.
Wow.
How do you justify that?
That was incredible.
How do you justify it? Yeah, it's bewildering. You just can't comprehend it.
And, you know, that's what enrages me so much about this sort of thing is because, you know, I see what these guys go through. I'm here like a sort of, you know, state promotion in California, still sort of regional, trying to grow. And, you know, I see what these young guys are going through, these young guys and girls. They're putting themselves through the grinder. They're not completing their education. They're not, you know, able to work proper hours. They're beating the heck out of themselves in the gym. And, you know, to know that a judge who just having, like you said, a bad night can affect them to the point where they don't eat is especially disturbing for me. You know, one thing that really, again, bothered me about this one was, even though I thought it was absolutely beyond, you know, clear that Jack won this fight, even though I thought it was a good fight, I thought it was clear that Jack won, is the fact that Jack has been on the bad end of so many of these horrific decisions. I mean, what do you think it is about Badou Jack that is making these judges go against him? I mean, is it his style? Is it the fact that he's on Mayweather's, one of Mayweather's fighters on his promotional banner? Is it because he's a foreigner? I mean, what do you think it is that's causing this? Because this is not, I think after 6, you know, decisions like this that are sort of questionable, you know, there has to be some sort of theory at this point.
The answer is yes. I mean, yes to everything. I don't know. Man, I don't know. Here's does Badou start slow? Absolutely. Does he start slow enough where he can get robbed out of these decisions? No. And when you have a fighter like Pascal, who's very experienced, who for 2 minutes and 50 seconds of the round is losing the round, and the last 10 seconds, as soon as he hears that 10-second clapper, he goes all out to try to steal the round. Is a judge really that naive in a world title bout to give him the round? It is unbelievable to me that going into the 6th round, all 5 judges had it 5-0. Going into the 6th round, they had it 5-0. It is unbelievable to me that it was 50-44 on all of their scorecards going into the 6th round, and one judge gave the 10th round to Pascal. That is unbelievable to me.
That's crazy.
What is it? I don't know. So I had this conversation, I'll say it openly, I had this conversation with Leonard the next day, and I was blaming everything under the sun. And yeah, I said, man, what is it? I mean, what are we doing wrong? And he said, Amer, he's just I said, are you trying to tell me, Leonard, that this is the unluckiest guy in the sport? He says, Amer, I really believe that. And it could be. It could be that Badou just ends up in that situation. But you know who, when you talk to Badou, he's such a spiritual guy that he just says, you know, man, God's the best of planners. I'll leave it in his hands. He's so disappointed that he had probably one of the best performances of his life on the 28th, and he still came up short. It's so frustrating. It's so disheartening. And like I said, they didn't mess up a pizza order. They didn't have a bad night and they came late to work. Man, they're talking about the guy's career. So I don't have an answer. I mean, I want, you want to blame someone, but who do you blame? What do you blame? I don't know.
Yeah. I mean, just from the outside looking in, right, I think it's probably a combination, and maybe I'm wrong. Again, this is just a theory, and this is one of the few, I think, combat sports channels where all opinions are welcome. So if anybody, there's a bunch of people in the chat right now. If any of you guys have an opinion, and thanks for joining us. If any of you guys have an opinion, you can feel free to air it. But, my opinion is it's probably a mix of, different qualities that Jack has. One of them being the fact that, like you said, he's not a big talker. So maybe these judges don't expect him to say anything if they go against him. Also, maybe his relation to Floyd Mayweather. I feel like obviously Floyd is a very hated person in boxing. I mean, a lot of people love him, but a lot of people hate him. And maybe that combination, combined with the fact that Jack is a foreigner, maybe I don't know. Maybe for me, that seems to make sense because I've just never seen a fighter get this many poor decisions in his direction, and it's just a very sad thing to see. You know what I mean?
It's unprecedented, the number of bad decisions. I don't even want to say close fights. Bad decisions, because that's what they are. I can't jump to the corruption. I can't point to the hate Floyd. Floyd is the biggest name in combat sports, not in boxing, in combat sports. Floyd raised the bar and did things for fighters, and he paved the way for fighters and showing them how they can make money and what was really possible. I mean, you're talking about the highest paid athlete of the decade, not boxer, athlete of the decade. So yes, there is a lot of resentment to that. Of course there is. There's a lot of jealous and envy to that. And maybe that's how they, I don't know. I also know that he's the most powerful guy in boxing. He can make fights happen, when he wants, and it's great for us. And I know that he pays his fighters well, and that's great for us. I don't know. I don't have the answer, but that's what's so frustrating about it is, we want to blame someone, something, somewhere, somehow. And can you put your finger on it? No, I mean, you can guess. Is there corruption? I don't know. Maybe there is. Are they awful at their jobs? Maybe they are. Do they have to do with Floyd? Maybe. Do they have to do with Badou style? Maybe. I don't know. I just know that this man is fighting the best people in the world. He is the best ambassador, and I'm not saying that because he's my guy. He is the best ambassador for this sport. When he goes out to a refugee camp, he had 130 or 128 stitches in his face after the Marcus Brown fight, 3 layers of stitches. And the doctors told him, man, don't travel, you just, this is brand new. And he goes, I promised these refugees I would visit them right after my fight. And I told him, champ, it's not that sanitary there. You have a fresh cut. The dirt and the sand and all of the bacteria that's there, you're prone to an infection. He's like, listen, I promise these kids this fight. Even in the post-fight interview, he said, listen, I have a huge gash on my head, but the fight that these refugees kids fight every single day is much worse than the one I just had. The guy's heart is in the right places. He's a great guy. He's a family man. He's a Muslim. He's devout. He's a religious man. You don't have to worry about him. You're not going to hear about him having some kind of scandal. I don't know, man. Maybe it's just a test. I don't know.
I usually, just, from the promoter aspect, I usually just blame it on incompetence. But, I can see situations where feelings and bias sway decisions. Just to sort of back up what Amer said for everybody in the chat, again, thank you guys for joining us. Badou Jack in his last 8 fights has fought Jean Pascal, Marcus Brown, Adonis Stevenson, Nathan Cleverly, James DeGale, Lucian Boot, George Groves, and Anthony Durrell, all guys that were champions or, former champions. And that's just a who's who, really, of the super middleweight and light heavyweight division. And, a fantastic guy, low-key. That's another thing I noticed. Every time they confront him in the post-fight interviews about this decision, he just said, all I can do is thank God. He's just a real honorable kind of guy, and it's sad to see this sort of thing happen.
If it was me or maybe someone of my time, I'd be kicking things over. I'd be kicking the corner pads. I might even kick the referee. It's so frustrating. And you talk about, it's bad judging. Yeah, in kickboxing, we promote kickboxing. Listen, we know what the difference between a paycheck at that level and what a kickboxing paycheck at that level is. They're not even comparable.
Yeah.
So this is life-changing money. It's not a $10,000 payday. It's not even a $50,000 payday, which, is high for kickboxers. You're talking about these guys are making 7-figure paydays, and that's been taken from them. It's real money. It's life-changing money. That's what that adds the fuel to the fire.
Yeah.
So I don't know, man. Every time I think about it, I just nod my head and I look at him, and he just takes it just with a stride of grace. And I told him, I go, man, it's not easy for me to say this, man. I swear to God, you're my hero. I just, he's younger than me, and so it's just I admire him so much for everything he stands for, and just for who he is.
So, what do you think is next for Jack at this point, being his manager? Is he going to get a rematch? Is it going to be treated as if he won the fight? We move on to bigger, better? What happens next?
It's funny. Since that fight, we've gotten more offers, and there's so much on the table right now. for us to choose and decide. And what we'll do is we'll sit with Leonard and Floyd and decide what the best course of action is for Badou. But he wants to jump right back in soon. Ramadan's coming up at the end of April. He would love to have a fight before then. And if that's not the case, then he'll enjoy Ramadan with his family, and we fight right after that. But he's hungry. He was back in the gym on Tuesday after the fight, training, and he feels great. His body feels good. His health, thank God, is good. He's in phenomenal shape. So would you just sit down? Our promoters do their job. We do our job.
Another thing I wanted to touch on, I noticed that Floyd Mayweather entered the ring after the decision and also looked dumbfounded. I mean, did he tell you anything in specific while he was in there?
My inbox blew up so much saying, what did you and Floyd say to each other in the ring? And there was a conversation that we had. I'm not going to disclose everything that we talked about, but I will tell you that he was utterly shocked. Leonard Ellerby, utterly shocked. Everybody in the ring just absolutely just mesmerized, just appalled, just disgusted. There's no words. There are no words to describe that feeling. We were all so, if you just look at it, everybody was so happy, so confident we won this fight. And I put my finger in Badou's chest and I say, there's no way they can steal this one from him, Chad. There's no way. And as soon as those scorecards took too long, we all looked at each other like, no, please, no. Don't do this to us. In boxing, that's a no-brainer. When scorecards take longer than 30 seconds to compile and Jimmy Lennon Jr. doesn't have that, he's not ready to announce, and everybody starts getting nervous because something's about to happen.
For sure.
He's just absolutely shocked. Everybody was.
For sure. So, Amer, you're another thing I wanted to ask. Believe you're originally from New York. Are you in Vegas? Are you living in Vegas now to train people at the Mayweather gym? I mean, where is it that you typically call home?
Right now, I still have properties in upstate New York, in Lockport, which I'll always consider home. But yeah, my family and I moved out to Las Vegas 6 years ago. I don't train anybody. I'm just managing guys now. And we've got a lot of different investments all over the country. I'm actually in Detroit right now as we speak with a company that I'm involved with. So I'm all over the place. But boxing is my passion. It's my love, and I do it because I love it. And if the money comes from it, which thank God it does, and that's a bonus. But I do it because I love doing it, not because I have to do it, because I love to do it. But yeah, we're based out of Las Vegas.
Very cool. Very cool. Well, Amer, I really appreciate your time today. I think it's very cool that we got you on the show. I'll let you go now. But, is there anything you want to say and let people know that are in the chat, where they can follow you and keep up with Amer Abdallah?
I appreciate it. Thank you very much. My Instagram is @TeamAbdallah and Facebook, Amer Abdallah. We're transcending the sport. We're trying to bring new, innovative things. We were a part of the KSI Logan Paul fight. Actually, my marketing manager, John Cater, was searching around. He's big into social media. He said, there's this kid named KSI that wants to put on a boxing fight. I said, man, I don't want nothing to do with these guys. And then he said, listen, let me just try to work this thing out. Will you let me use, to represent you? And I said, go ahead. The next week, KSI was in camp at Badou, and look what ended up happening.
Wow.
KSI's trainer, KSI's trainer, his name is Vidal Riley. He's a real fighter. He was a British champion, Commonwealth champion. So we signed Vidal. Vidal just signed also with Mayweather Promotions, so I represent Vidal. He's 3-0 now. First card he fought was in Mexico. Second card he fought on the Broner-Pacquiao undercard, which coincidentally enough, he got the only knockout of the night.
Nice.
Third fight, he was the headline for in a pay-per-view card in Dubai. And now we're fighting February 28th on Showtime. So Vidal Riley is he's got a huge social media following. Of course, the whole KSI fan base. He's now training Gibb, who's fighting Jake Paul. So it's exciting, man. It's just, again, it's a business, and you just transcend the sport and getting into different spaces and just doing things a little bit differently.
Very cool. One of our contributors, Emmanuel Kant, he's writing in the chat right now. Keep kicking ass, Amer. So you've got love from the knuckleheads here at Knucklehead Nation, brother. I wanted to ask you one more thing. That drama with Shannon Briggs. I mean, was that real, or were you guys just messing with us? What happened there?
No, it was very real. It was very real. And that's what's surprising, and I posted a video afterwards. Shannon and I were together at Badou's house. We had dinner a few months before that. We talked, a couple of times in between that. Actually, the first press conference for KSI and Logan, Shannon saw me. He called me over and we embraced. We hugged and everything was cool. And then the second one, here's the thing with Shannon, right? Is when he goes in the fight, he blanks out, and everything becomes about the fight. And again, to understand a fighter, you have to understand that. And a lot of people are saying, why would he act like that? He's crazy. No, he's not crazy. He's in fight mode.
Yeah.
That's what happened. Had I thought that Shannon would ever get physical, I would have never allowed him to get that close to me, or I would have made the first move. But there was no imminent danger because I knew who he was. We were just having a basic, argument between both of our fighters. And then afterwards, we hugged it out and everything was cool. After he actually called me a half hour after that incident, just apologizing left, right, and center. He's like, man, I just let my emotions get me. I'm so sorry. Listen, it's just fighting. And here's what a lot of people don't understand. If you don't like that, then you're in the wrong sport because that's what happens. That's just how we move.
For sure.
It's another day at the office. It's a fight game, and some days you guys are loving each other, and the next day you're fighting each other, and the next day, you're on opposite sides and opposite corners. It just happens.
Yeah.
That's what it is. That's just how it works.
I mean, obviously, I didn't want to see you guys go at it, but I feel like, I read some comments. Some people were saying, oh, man, Shannon's a big guy and this and that. But a lot of people were like me and were like, well, but Amer is a championship kickboxer. So, I mean, and I've seen some of your kicks, brother. And let me tell you, I'm very impressed. And I would not want to be on the receiving end of one of those kicks, my man.
I appreciate that.
Yeah, Amer. So, hey, I'm in Los Angeles. Obviously, this is a formal invite right here. You know how we get down in the culture, so you're always invited to come to our kickboxing shows. The next one is February 28th. I'd love to have you there. And if you ever
Vidal fights on that card that day in Showtime.
Oh, I see. Well, hopefully we can link up soon. But thank you so much for your time, Amer. Really appreciate you, brother.
Thank you for having me. It's an honor, brother. Stay in touch.
All right, man. Have a good one.
Take care, guys. All right.
So there you have it, knuckleheads. Amer Abdallah on the chat giving his opinion on that, wicked Badou Jack robbery. I mean, very honorable guy, not willing to say, obviously, because of his religious beliefs that these judges were corrupt. But, I think there may be a hint of that going on potentially. Obviously, I don't have proof, so I won't say that either. But my goodness, I mean, the guy's had so many decisions go against him. And, I mean, how do you explain it? What do you do? You know what I mean? How do you resolve the issue? How do you explain the issue in order to resolve it? I mean, you got to know where the problem is coming from in order to resolve it most of the time. And it's just very, very strange and very, very unfortunate. I want to thank all of you guys for being in here. A lot going on in here. Let's see what's going on here. Of course, Jamaican boxing. I noticed you throughout the chat saying that Pascal won. Of course, our only Canadian in the chat is going to be the only person that thinks Pascal won. Guys, I really, objectively speaking, don't see how anybody could have scored that for Pascal. I thought Pascal was just winging shots. He wasn't accurate. At the beginning of the fight, he did land a couple good shots and did drop Jack, but I really felt like Jack took over and just dominated the rest of that fight. And, a guy like Jack, like Amer was saying, I mean, a philanthropist and a devoted guy and a good boxer and a nice guy that would be a great ambassador for the sport. It's a shame to see him on the receiving end of such, garbage decisions. And, that's something that frustrated me enough to want to reach out to Amer Abdallah and get him on the chat. Let's see what else is going on here. Suleiman says, what's good, knuckleheads? What's good, Suleiman? Thank you for joining, my brother. Much appreciated. Pound for pound in here. What up, my brother? Good having you in here. Looks like pound for pound, you're out in Oakland. That's interesting. I think you told me you were up north before, but I didn't remember exactly where. Emmanuel Compton here. What's going on, my man? Thank you for contributing. And obviously Jamaican boxing. While Amer was in here, thank you guys for contributing to the chat. Muay Thai 23. I'm going to ask Muay Thai 23 that you tighten up a little bit, my man. I know, you like to joke around and stuff, but some of the stuff you were saying in here, I was just like, oh my God, this guy is... something's wrong with this guy. So much love, Muay Thai 23. Everybody's always welcome in here. But again, I do ask that if you guys are going to be in here saying stuff, please at least contribute positively to the chat. Give me something of substance to work with. So knuckleheads, before I continue, I just wanted to say, don't forget, be sure to tune in on YouTube. If you can't come here live, and get your tickets at FightersRep.com. If you're not near Southern California, to purchase your own tickets to FightersRep 9 on FightersRep.com. Do please tune into YouTube, subscribe, show some love. I'll have the super chat open, so if you guys want to, donate some money, treat it as a pay-per-view when it happens. I'd greatly appreciate that. I do also, suggest that if you guys want to help out the channel financially, you get your FightersRep shirts low. I think it's like $20. Suleiman says, what do you think about the Ryan Garcia call out of Tank and Haney? I don't know if Ryan Garcia is ready yet, but I do respect his courage, for calling out Tank Davis, for calling out Devin Haney. I do think if Tank Davis doesn't take this sport seriously, he will get his ass beat by a kid like Ryan Garcia eventually. I don't know if right now, but he needs to tighten up big time because he did not look put together in that last fight, if you ask me. I think if you're moving up a weight class, and you're still not able to make weight, you're coming in overweight by almost 2 pounds despite the fact that you're moving up for the first time, it's indicative of perhaps a problem with your discipline and your seriousness with regards to the sport. Maybe Tank Davis has made enough money now where he's kind of getting that silk sheets syndrome. Jamaican, my brother, says, smash the like button and drop the kid a damn super chat. Thank you so much, Jamaican. Much appreciated, my man. Emmanuel Kant saying Ryan is talented. I do think Ryan Garcia is very talented. I'm not sure if he's at the level yet where, he'll be able to beat Tank Davis, but perhaps. He's so quick. He's shown that with that quickness comes power. He's been able to, finish his past couple opponents, and, he looks good. Suleiman says, I think both Haney and Tank put the beats on Ryan right now, but I just think it was interesting of him to call them out. Pound for pound boxing 510 says, now Tank, on the other hand, I don't know. So pound for pound boxing saying Haney would whoop Ryan, but he doesn't know if Tank would whoop Ryan, it looks like. Emmanuel Kant says, I'll match Ed. I know what you mean by that, brother. Jamaican says, Tank looked like a Hummer in his last fight, to be honest. He ain't ready for Loma or Haney. I agree with that. A lot of people are very, very high on Haney, and I think he's very talented. But I think to put him right now at Lomachenko's level is a bit careless. I must say, you guys are being a little bit reckless. I'm not saying you are putting him on the level of Lomachenko, but I'm saying if you are putting him on the level of Lomachenko, you may be being slightly reckless. I don't think he's got the resume to match Lomachenko right now. I don't even think he's got the footwork and the talent and the athleticism to match Lomachenko right now. But I do think at some point he may achieve that. Emmanuel Kant says, I'll match Muay Thai $100 to Rep if he puts his money where his mouth is. I don't know. What do you mean to rep? I don't know what you mean by that, to rep. What did Muay Thai say in here? to get you to say that. And the last thing that I saw Muay Thai 23 say was, ask this guy how big his hog is. I mean, goodness gracious. What's going on with you, Muay Thai 23? You need to go watch some adult flicks or something and get the poison out of you, brother. Let's see here. Pound for Pound Boxing says, Haney is a Bay Area kid. Emmanuel Kant is saying, I like Haney. And Emmanuel Kant is also saying, you're boxing rep. By the way, guys, I mean, if you guys also, obviously, if you have your own businesses and you want a tax write-off, you want to sponsor the show on February 28th, you can do so, and it is a tax write-off, and, we will shout you out big time at the show as well as online while we're airing the live fights. I'm scheduling 16 fights. Hopefully they all go through. I've got 3 fights that seem to be lined up right now. We've got, in the pro bouts, we've got John Garcia going up against Milton Arguello, 2 guys from 2 very good camps, 2 very solid fighters. I really look forward to that fight. I've also got Nico Ruiz versus Jake the Avocado Haas, which is definitely one of my favorite nicknames. But that's a real fun fight. 2 really good strikers. Nico Ruiz also from, down here in the, I guess the Valley area. And we've got Jake the Avocado Haas coming in from up north. And then we've got Terrion Ware taking on Quentin McCottrell. Quentin has fought for Bellator, so I think that's very cool. And Terrion Ware, obviously he's fought in the UFC, and it's very cool to have guys like that kickboxing for us at FightersRep. So I'm saying, that's a very cool thing to have going on, something I'm very proud of, and I really look forward to the card on February 28th. It looks like Emmanuel Kant saying if Muay Thai gives Boxing Rep $100, I'll match it. That'd be greatly appreciated. Thank you guys for your generosity, man. You guys rock. Thank you so much for joining the chat. Again, subscribe if you're not already. We do this Monday, Wednesday, and Friday at 7 p.m. Pacific. We also go live Saturday or immediately after the big fight, whatever happens on the weekend. So let's say if a fight, happens on Saturday and ends at 7, we'll go live immediately after to discuss whatever big fight that is, whether it's MMA or boxing. We'll also start doing it for the glory fights, the kickboxing, since we are a kickboxing promotion at the end of the day. Another cool thing that I wanted to leave you guys with is, sort of in celebration of the Tyson Fury versus Deontay Wilder rematch, where obviously there was some controversy related to the referee's count and allowing Tyson Fury the chance to get back up. I'm going to have on Wednesday as a special guest professional boxing referee and former kickboxer, undefeated kickboxer, Dan Bam Bam Stell, 17-0 kickboxer with 15 knockouts. He's now one of the best referees, I would say, in the game, in the world. I mean, you've seen him referee fights between Artur Beterbiev and that kid from Eastern Europe whose name I can't remember now. Bam Stell's also refereed some really notable MMA fights. He's a really well-known guy. He's got his own refereeing certification program where he trains people how to be referees and judges. Just a very high-profile referee and a guy who comes from combat sports, again, undefeated kickboxer. So we'll have him live on the show on Wednesday, and definitely something I'm excited to have on the channel. We'll ask him specifically about that count, what he thought about it, and what would happen. Manuel Khan said, Muay Thai, shut up quick. Pound for Pound Boxing says he was catching Gamboa with the left the whole fight, referring to Jamaican boxing. He says, Jamaican boxing says, I think Tank is better at 130. His power doesn't translate at 135. He was hitting Gamboa flush. That's true. He was hitting Gamboa flush, a guy whose chin was already slightly questionable, and he just couldn't really dent it. So, is Tank a 135 or should he drop back to 130? That kind of goes into speaks to my sentiment about him, not being serious about training. I mean, maybe he can make 130 pounds easy. but he just, he'd rather eat and hang out. Jamaican is saying Leonard Ellerby Nostrils is selling wolf tickets with Tank. I ain't buying it. TMT trying to turn Tank into a star. Who's fought? Nobody. Ouch. Ouch, Jamaican. You are being a brute today, my man. Let's see here. Muay Thai, too much head strikes. Maybe he should move to Jiu-Jitsu. That's from Suleiman. Suleiman saying Luke Campbell versus Haney. What you think? I think that's a great fight. I think that's a fantastic fight. And it looks like pound for pound boxing 5'10". Would agree. Luke Campbell definitely has the wrestling advantage over Haney. Haney got to keep it off the ground, says Suleiman. You guys, thank you so much for joining the chat. We're closing in on an hour. We're over 50 minutes here. Your boys got to sign off, but I want to thank you guys for joining and supporting the channel. As always, be sure to tune in Wednesday. We'll have Bam Stell on the show. Like I said, he'll discuss that count with us and tell us what he's up to. He'll also talk to you guys a little bit about FightersRep. He is the official referee and also the vice president of the IKF, which is the sanctioning body that oversees my amateur cards. And so there you have it, Knuckleheads. I really appreciate you guys joining. And until Wednesday at 7 p.m. Pacific, keep it clean, Knuckleheads. I'm out. Thank you guys so much for the love and the support.